Hi, I'm Susie Monday. I'm a San Antonio textile artist, and I've been working here in the city, for about 50 years in various forms of textiles and arts and education. And I wanted to share with you a little history of the city through textiles and other art forms. The reason we're here in San Antonio is because of the Blue Hole, a big giant spring among several other springs that form the San Antonio River. The San Antonio River is a relatively short river and it goes from San Antonio to the Gulf Coast. We go through several different geographical areas and wildlife areas. The Balcones Fault runs right through our city. The Rio Grande Plain is to the south of us, the Llano Basin a little bit north, and the Edwards Plateau or the hill country is up there. The first people who lived here were indigenous travelers who probably migrated from across the Straits of Alaska to South Texas and then into Mexico. They had a very rich material culture, but much of it was ephemeral materials. And that culture is still alive with the Native and Indigenous American people that still live here in San Antonio and who create artwork. These are some amazing murals and pictures of one of the missions that was, of course, what disrupted the whole thing. The Spaniards arrived in about 300 years ago, a little bit more. And in that uh, takeover of this land, they were here to peaceably convert the Indians, but it wasn't always peaceable. And some of the missions that were formed here in San Antonio are commemorated through a lot of the art that shows up in the city. Of course, the most famous textile for the region culturally is Our Lady of Guadalupe, which is actually a textile imprint of the Virgin of Guadalupe that hangs in Mexico City. You'll see her all throughout the city. It also influences a lot of what you see through the textile arts of materials, cotton, uh, cactus, the mesquite beans, in the case of this piece on the right. And, and as the Spanish and the Mexican uh, populations grew, we came into the history of the vaqueros. So there was all the material culture in the textiles of embroidered saddles, punched leather, uh, clothing for the soldiers. And those art forms consisted and existed through the history of the early part of the city and still managed to inspire work. There's everything from rattlesnake uh, collage to embroidery to fine weavings. The Alamo itself is probably something most people outside of San Antonio have heard of. And the Alamo, believe it or not, that distinctive shape was only added in the 1850s after the battle was long over. But as you can see, this piece by Briseño, it's still a source of inspiration to us. The checkered history of San Antonio has a lot of conflict in it, but it became part of the United States, or actually a free territory in 1848, when the Spaniards were defeated and we came into our own part of the world. The Alamo, the river, the tile work, all of these really still exist in forms that are reflected in our art. That's a little art quilt piece there. And then there's the darker sides of San Antonio and Texas history. The Ku Klux Klan was active here. The city did become part of the Civil War as uh, Texas seceded from the Union and was a very big hardship on the land and the people. The cowboys, the culture of cowboys is important, and we see everything from serapes to contemporary art quilts and tile work that celebrate the kind of myth of our Texas hero people. The material world of quilts and cotton was very important. There was a lot of cotton growth in this area before everybody realized that there wasn't enough water to really reliably grow cotton. So the gins were all torn down and the cotton plantations disappeared. But during that highlight of kind of the turn of the century, 1800s to the 1900s, a lot of European influence came into the city with the Germans, the Poles, the Czechs, as well as the Spaniards and the Mexicans who moved here and created a kind of merchant class for the city. Hemisphere 68 comes along a bit further down the road, but became a real influence on the art scene of the city with murals and textiles. And I made banners for Hemisphere 68. We've continued to use our Mexican bicultural influences in our art, from public art to paintings to contemporary graphics. And the UTSA art collection is a very famous collection of Mexican and Mexican American art. Of course, there's contemporary art and architecture, from the gowns of the Fiesta queens, the Tobin collection of costumes, the Matinee, which is a rich collection of all kinds of artwork. And moving even a little further along, our own famous art quilt and art surface design people that live here. I love this piece in the bottom of Jane Dunawalt, who of course is one of our stars of surface design and known internationally for her work. So anyway, thank you for letting me share my view of San Antonio through its arts. And I hope you take time to look at there's a handout you can download that gives the names of the artists whose work is featured. And, feel free to write me any questions if you have some about the city and its history. Thank you.